So today is the April 28th architecture meeting, and we just got off a board meeting call, and one of the ideas that we came up with is basically every meeting start looking through the issues and seeing prioritizing them and kind of doling out the issues for folks to work on. I'm not prepared to do that today, but that's going to be the game plan. I will get that sorted out. We may do that coming up on Monday or Tuesday for the general meeting to let folks know that we'll go through a few minutes and see who's interested in what on the issue side, so we keep things moving along. But today we're focusing on our star today, Utkarsh, and his blockchain. Just want to get caught up, Utkarsh, where you're at and what we can help you with.
Okay. So as you know, we have like two standalone applications. One is for NFT and the other one is for leisure. So currently they are working as a standalone application. The objective that I'm working currently on is to create one application that use the dependent methods or calls from those modules. So this way we'll have a lot more cleaner code, and we can start incrementing all the features above that.
Cool. And I can't remember, was the NFT code in Node?
Yeah, the ledger code. So the NFT code that Joseph was working on, and the ledger code, I have created a pull request. I don't know if you have merged that to master.
No, I did not, but let me go ahead and do that.
Okay.
And for this stuff, feel free. We're not real strict on merges and stuff like that. And so if you want to go ahead and merge things yourself, go ahead and just create a pull request and merge it yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the wrong repo.
So
I'm not. Just to let you know, I'm not that type of person that's going to freak out if you do a PR and you break something, because the way GitHub works, it's really hard to get rid of history, and it's even harder since we all have a copy of the repo at some point. So, some other projects are really strict about who can do PRs and things like that. But my viewpoint is the more we can move things along, the better than being bottlenecked.
Me, I'm a special case.
Well, with you, we just got to make sure we're not going to do a push force against the master on the original repo and mess that one up.
I'm moving to Mac, so there'll be no more weird Windows funny stuff.
Steve can say, like, after Sasha, like, I'm prepared for anything.
As long as Sasha's in his own repo, we can.
Come on, Ortelius repo.
Not the direct. He's the only person that we've excluded permissions for going directly against the main repo. Utkarsh,
awesome.
your PR has been merged, so
they call me the BIG from South Africa.
The Git destroyer.
It's an honor. It's a total honor. It means you're using it.
Yeah, exactly. Represent.
You should work like in an initiative like the what is the chaos theory. Maybe you can implement like this kind of tool for like just messing around.
That's classic.
I'm gonna send you a T-shirt that says "I broke Git."
Yeah, right.
Cool. going to be
All
my
right,
first
Nukarsh,
question.
your code's been merged. In your side with the ledger is written in what? I can't remember. Did you move it over to from Python to Node, or which way are
Yeah,
we
it's in
going?
Node. Yeah, so we decided now, like we'll go with the Node packages only, because there
Okay.
are like a lot of code is already available on the internet. We can take help from there.
Perfect. Yeah, so just to recap for folks that weren't here last time, I initially threw out the requirement to try to use Python for the XRPL, and what we kind of found, Joseph ran into this initially for the NFTs, was there was a Python, and so the NFTs live inside of IPFS, which is an interplanetary file system, which is a distributed file system that gives us a way to have an immutable object on a file system. And that immutable object in our world is our JSON definition of an application version or component version. So we're going to take out of our database, when we go and create a new version, we'll go ahead and create that, mirror that into an NFT. So the NFT is just going to be a JSON file that is stored in the IPFS, which makes it immutable. And then, and what we found was Joseph couldn't get the Python piece to work, so he ended up going over to Node, and that made things a lot easier. Now, Utkarsh, you started with Python first,
Yeah.
and now you're moving over to Node to get everything consistent. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, hang on, I gotta let my dog in. Hang on.
I'm gonna let my dog in. That's so cool.
Yeah, like my
Okay.
dog is asking for the on the dog.
He knocked.
Yeah,
So cool.
it's a yeah, like a real urgent involved. Like, Steve, please knock
Yep.
knock.
I had he scratches on the door, so he knows it's time for him to come in. All right, so now you're moving over to Node on your side, on the ledger side, correct?
Yep.
And how's that going?
Yeah, the code for Ledger is already completed, but the problem is the NFT code and Ledger code, they're working as a standalone. So we need to merge that code into an application that works currently.
And have we found any examples to that kind of tie it all together yet, or is that something that we need help on?
Actually, we have everything that we discussed on that day. So once my code cleanup is ready, then we can have a look at that again.
Okay.
And decide what action items we want to take further.
All right, perfect. So if we need help on pulling together the ledger side with the NFT side, if we can't get any of what we think is the path to merge it, let me know, and I will make sure that we could get somebody from Ripple, who's the creators of the XRPL group, to give us some help on that front. So Brian Dawson works for Ripple, and they are the core contributors to the XRPL. So he can get us some resources if we need to. So if you're having a hard time, just speak up sooner than later so we can get that scheduled.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things with us being flexible to move from Python over to Node, and picking the language that has a lot of examples, a lot of a good code base to work from. I think we'll be able to move along a lot quicker. I've seen other projects that tried to use a language that isn't mature yet around certain technologies. So I know like Rust and blockchain They exist. There is support in blockchain for the Rust language, but it isn't mature enough. So you spend all this time trying to fix bugs instead of coding a solution. And I'm glad we're moving to Node to keep things moving along. Cool. So when do you think? What do you think your time frame? I'm not trying to hold you to a certain date, but what do you think you're shooting for?
Yeah, we can start looking at the code starting next week.
Okay, cool.
It's already done, so no issue.
All right. And do you want to look at the code together, or do you want to give it a go first on your own, or with yourself and Joseph?
So there is not much work left. So we just have to do some refactoring, and we have to just do some structuring the project. That's it.
Cool. Excellent. Well, Sergio's volunteering. I can hear him trying to speak up.
I'm sorry. I thought I was mute.
All right, awesome. So some other things. Anything else on the ledger and the NFTs? Oh, just the one thing. Brian did say that they are going through the grant process and starting the reviews. I told him that we've been working on getting a sample code in our repo, and he was excited about that. So even if we have, in other words, commit stuff to the repo and just go ahead and merge it yourself to keep that process moving along, even if it's not a complete working solution. As long as we have commits going, showing that we're doing work, that'll help with that grant.
Sure.
Cool. And we'll let Sasha merge all the PRs and be responsible for the code reviews.
Bring it on. Let me code review. I do it for my team already.
Oh, we need a nickname for you.
Yeah. All right, cool.
I got a Mac.
So anything else on the blockchain and NFTs?
Yeah, so one thing we did discuss with Joseph and all. So there are like two types of there are two ways we can use IPFS storages. One of them is what Joseph was using. So he was using the third-party IPFS storage. So when you use that service, whatever the what do you call CIDs, CIDs that are created, they are immediately available to the outside world. So that becomes public, right? But there is another way of using IPFS storages, that is in repo IPFS storage. So you can do all those processes, but that will be at the repository level. And later, when you want to make those CIDs as a public, then you can use either Pinata or other third-party like services that are there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with having the information public. It actually, in the long run, so if let me kind of give you guys my vision here, is the concept of an application and the components at the microservices world is going to become more public. So we're going to have services that exist outside of a company that need to be managed. So for example, like WordPress. WordPress is made up about I think like 6 different components, including like Mongo or Postgres is one of the database components. And when that WordPress version gets created for a company, what does that look like? What's the components that are making up the application? That information should be applied to the ledger, that we have a history of this is what the config looked like at this point in time. So the ledger is just the immutable transaction log that we get to keep track of what went where and basically snapshot things as we go. So that information being public, I'm okay with, because there's nothing like really, you know, like there's no secrets in there. There's not like any classified information at that level. Now, there's another concept. So to answer your question, Ukarsh, using the public or the internal one, I can go either way, whichever is easier. I think we go with the NFT.storage for what we're doing for like the proof of concept isn't going to cost us anything. So we're okay sticking with that front, which is what Joseph did. Now, one of the other things that in the grant proposal that we put together is they have a concept in XRPL. It's called a side chain. So a side chain is like a private blockchain. So what I kind of foresee is that we're going to end up having our main blockchain of like the components and stuff like that as they're coming out of the build process. We're snapshotting those in the ledger. And then when somebody goes to pull together components into an application that's internal to a company, that would go, that configuration definition would go into their internal side chain. So what ends up happening is you have this public blockchain of component versions, and then you have internal company definitions of how an application is being put together. And the reason why this is going to happen is companies don't want to expose all the technology they're using, because they see software as a competitive advantage. So exposing what they're doing versus, you know, one bank, you know, Bank of America versus Wells Fargo, they want to make sure that Bank of America is not showing, you know, all their secrets to Wells Fargo out in the public. So that's where the side chains will eventually come into play. Now, when we talk about like at the wallet, if we do have a public application like WordPress, and we want to know that WordPress is deployed to these 1 million customers, this version, that's where the wallet will come into play, and we'll have transactions at that level where you actually buy WordPress for $0 amounts from our blockchain, and you put it into your wallet. When we finally get to that level, that person that's doing the buying of that WordPress version, we will want to make sure that it's only an ID and not necessarily like, you know, Wells Fargo or Bank of America as the identifier. And that's kind of like your Bitcoin blockchain. It's pretty anonymous. You don't know who you're buying or selling from. You just have these IDs. There are some ways you can kind of eventually groom and work your way to the original, you know, to the owner of that that transaction, but it's really hard. And I foresee that in the case of like WordPress being purchased for $0 amounts by these million customers, that if there's a fix to PHP and WordPress, that we can then contact those, you know, send out, I don't know how we would do it exactly, but we know the IDs of the consumers, and then we can do a notification through the ID process that they need to update their version of WordPress, because we know there's a vulnerability in their version that they're using. And that's where the side chains will come in into play as well at a federated level. So we'll have our main blockchain, and we'll know that these side chains are consuming what's off of the public blockchain, and that we can notify the sidechain owner in some way that they have to go and update. So we'll know, we'll be able to look in from the public blockchain into not necessarily into the side chains, but we'll be able to reference the side chains. Now, if you're in the side chain and looking back out, you can see everything from your organization all the way up into the public one, but you won't be able to see across organizations from one side chain to another side chain. So we'll have some work to do, but that's kind of the vision I have And if we start looking at pulling this into with what the OpenSSF's doing at the package level, we'll be up into the millions of records pretty quick, keeping track of stuff. So it'll be fun. It'll be a journey, and we'll do a lot of learning along the way to make sure we can get this structured and figured out correctly. So does that kind of help put some context to where we're headed?
Yeah, sure.
Any questions, Sasha, Sergio? You guys good?
No, I'm just listening because this is new to me.
Yeah,
I'm good. I just think that first I feel bad to not be actively working on this. But from the other side, I think we need maybe to clone Utkarsh or find someone with the same compromise that Utkarsh has.
we have Joseph. Joseph cranked out that NFT pretty quick. So
cool.
So we do have somebody that we're in the process of cloning. We got one arm done.
Cool. Okay, that makes me feel. But maybe we should do some kind of campaign to.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll bring that up.
Yeah, because
definitely.
we have a lot of campaign to do stuff, but not campaign to like bring more people into that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's just a topic in general that we need to kind of figure out. Like I said at the beginning, of how we can get folks working on issues and maybe getting the issues out of my head and a little more clear, more concise for folks to work on it. And I know Sergio has his project board that he's working on to kind of help categorize things. So we're getting there. We're trying to take some steps, but it's definitely going to be a learning process to make this work.
Yes, totally.
Okay, anything else on blockchain and NFTs? All right, cool. So I've been working on the pulling in information from the SBOM perspective. So one of the things that I've been I can't remember who did the coding change, but we have a way as part of the CI/CD process to grab the SBOM that's been generated from the different tools. The one that seems to work the best is Sift from Encore. So Sift will look at any container and dive into the container and pull out the OS level packages like the debs and the RPMs. If it's a node application or if it's a mix of node and maybe some Golang, it'll go through and pull out the dependencies and put them into an SPDX or Cyclone formatted JSON file that we then upload over to the backend side, which we associate those packages to the component version. So all that's working really cool and working really well. I have figured out that there is a new CVE database that's been kind of groomed over the last couple of years. Let me find it here. I think it is osv.dev. So go ahead and say search. So it's actually been groomed together out of a different set of databases. So it's one of the more comprehensive ones. So it's looking at the GitHub, the PyPy, Go, Rust, Golang, OSS Fuzz, and it's pulling together all these different languages, which is nice. One of the nice things that they have is a public facing API that we can go ahead and query. Oh, didn't want to go there. And one of the things this is allowing us to do is to basically in real time associate together the package. So where is it? So let me just pull up one real quick. So if we look at one of the issues here, we could pull up all this information, and to make that query, it's super simple. Basically, you pass in like I just did log4j, and I can put in like 2.16.0 or 2.16, and it should pull up. No, I forgot the format. Anyways, there's an API endpoint that we get to hit as part of this information. So what I'm doing is cross-referencing the SBOM with these CVEs. And one of the things that we're going to need is this database. Even though we can hit the endpoint that's available, it's just too slow. So we need to kind of offload all this data locally. And I haven't created an issue yet, but I think we can. I started playing around with Rango DB as a document store to load in the JSON and then query it using, it's called AQL, which is a graphing type of query language, and it's super fast. So some of the things that we need to do is we need to stand up an Rango container in our Kubernetes cluster, and then also have a nightly process to go, or hourly process to go download the latest CVEs from this website. So what ends up happening is they come down, these are just backed by JSON files. So the JSON files can be pushed into the Rango DB real easy, just a simple command line. And then we'll be able to query it from our side of things pretty quick. So that's kind of the next thing on the horizon that we need to kind of get sorted out. Also, with the Libier stuff that Aisha has been working on, it looks like those databases are JSON formatted as well. So I think we're getting to the point where we're going to start moving towards a more of a document store, you know, a graph database instead of the Postgres database here. And I kind of foresee that we'll have a little bit of both in the interim. I'm not in the long term. I don't think we'll be able to move away from the Postgres database very quickly, but I think we can start chipping away at it at that level. So looks like I have to, Tracy just told me I have to jump on to another meeting. So I'm going to open a couple issues on that. Utkarsh, reach out if you need any help on pulling that together on the ledger side with the NFTs. And then we'll touch base at the general meeting, whatever, early next week, and we'll see where things are going to make sure we have everybody, all the resources happening. And I'm going to go create a couple issues around the Rango DB and the CVEs database. So if anybody's interested on some Helm charts and learning Rango, let me know. All right, Sasha, I'll get you on the list there.
Don't avoid such.
All right, folks, I got to run off to my next meeting.
Those guys.
All right, talk to you guys.
Thank you very
later.
much.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Stay
Bye-bye.
safe, guys. Bye.
Bye.